Hello, it is time for Art in the AM. And if you're watching for the very first time, my name's Jamie, and I have been working in this little watercolor sketchbook all during the year of 2025. And I have been working with a word of the week. And for the most part, I have done a video every single week except for last week. I think was the first week that I had not done. And if you are on my text list, you normally get a text right before I go live. And last week, I went to go send that and could not connect to the internet. And I kind of went through everything and ended up just realizing that I was not going to be able to do a live video, and it just, technology just kind of set me back a little bit. So I did not do a video last week, and if you had been watching during the month of September, I had been working with this lion photo, and I had been using an art style every week to kind of go through and just show the differences between the different art styles with that photo. And the very first one that I showed here, I do not have all the details on the back here, but this was the realistic one, I believe. So I spent some time painting and doing some pencil work and doing some just kind of blues and things in the background there. And the next week, I think that was natural. The first one is natural. Normally I have been putting the definition and things on the back there. Hi there, Kathy. And I have not done that for the month of September. The next one I had done, I showed how to do this grid on the back and transfer that image by a grid onto the paper. So I'm going to shade that in a little bit behind in my September book. And then this one, I think, now I forget which order they're in. Maybe this one was realistic, natural, I don't know. I'm going to have to go back. All of my videos, after I do them live on Facebook, they are put onto my YouTube channel. So if you do want to go watch any of the Word of the Week videos, just put YouTube in the comments and I'll make sure that you have my YouTube link. And then week before last was the, I think that I broke down and did abstract. I broke down geometric and organic shapes and showed how to cut those. Good morning, Sue. And to put those, so I was kind of finishing up both of those, added a little bit more color and things to this one. And I loved how it looked like this lion over here had a crown. Doesn't it kind of look like a crown up in the... It was just the shape that I had, if you watch that video, that I had cut for an organic shape, and I thought it fit there, and now I feel like it looks like a crown on this lion. So I missed last week doing a live, but I wanted to go ahead and finish because I have 2 last pages in this book. And the last art style I really wanted to be able to show you because it is Impressionism. And I would love to know what you think of when you think of Impressionism, or what artist you think of, or what that even, when you hear somebody talk about impressionistic, painting, like what does that mean to you? I would love for you to put that in the comments and know, because, after doing a little bit of research, I feel like maybe I had bits and pieces of what I thought that it was and what I had just kind of accepted that it was. And after I researched it, it was a little bit different, and it was different artists than I thought. So I'm going to talk to you about that and talk to you about like what's coming next in October, November, December, and, finishing up this book and just like all kinds of things. I also want to show you, I got to go to an art show last, 2 weekends. I guess it was last weekend. Yes, it was last weekend, because then I was going to show you last Monday. It was like an outdoor art fair, I guess maybe that is the better word. So it wasn't like an art show at a gallery, right? It was like this time of year seems to be the time of year for that. I feel like I've already went to 2 or 3 of those, and I was going to go to one yesterday, and like I just feel like this is the time of year for that. And Kathy says Monet, Picasso. So that kind of time period of those artists there. I really had to kind of look, so I'm going to give you a little bit of information. And I am going to go ahead and do this last, well, I have one more page in here, so I'm going to tell you what I think I'm going to do on that page there. But this is my last page in this book, and I am still using this lion. And normally I trace the lion on here, but I do not have a piece of carbon paper right here. So we'll see what I'm gonna do with that. I was gonna show you what I got at the art fair last weekend. It was very close to where I live, and there were probably like 300 booths. Like it was a pretty decent size, and they closed down the street and all of the booths, and it's kind of nice because you can go down one and like come back the other, and feel like you're hitting all of them, even though you have to like look on both sides a lot of times. This one is not set up like that, but so just straight up, straight down, and you catch all of them. But I realized when I left for this art show that I was not wearing earrings. Like if you have been watching for a while, these are typically the ones that I put on. They catch the light really nice. I like the spirals. They just go with everything, and I wear these a lot. But that day I did not wear earrings, so I thought, well, I need to look for a pair of earrings at the art show. And I came across this art booth, and I find it so interesting, like what people make art out of. And this particular booth that I came up to, there were a lot of people. There were a lot of people at the booth. So I thought I need to kind of check out and they were earrings. So I started looking around, and they were making, well, I think it was the wife, but it was the husband and wife that were there. The artist was making earrings that were light. So that was definitely a feature that I liked. And they were made out of recycled cardboard boxes, in particular cereal boxes. And she just had all kinds of these earrings. So I'm going to show you I ended up getting 2 pair. These were the first pair that I saw, and they are both sides, although, well, they got kind of stuck together. Although when you wear them, you're only seeing the one size, but that way then, like when they spin around or, whatever. So let's see. So these are the first pair that I got. I love the organic shapes. So, and you can see on the back there. So I loved the circles, and that they weren't like hanging down too low, right? So, and they have the sparkle. Like it's not very, it's not zooming in on and focusing, but you can see the sparkle on there. And she has some kind of varnish that she put on there. And I love the pink. And the stone, I forget what kind of stone he told me this was. It seems like it starts with an M. Do you know, like malachite? Is that, I don't know if that's, it shows off my pink nails that are sparkly right there. So those were the first pair. And a lot of the other ones like hung down lower, and I don't do like the really, like that hang down really like low. So I had to keep looking. I really liked this teardrop shape. And these were the smaller teardrop shapes. And they have this pretty pearl on there. It's not focusing on there. And then these had the writing on there. I think it's focusing on my nails instead of but so it had this little writing, and there's these are kind of bluish and greenish and, just kind of more neutral really, but Yeah, they have like some green and blue in there. So those were the two pair of earrings that I got, and they're so light because they're made out of cardboard, just like really thin little cardboard pieces from cereal boxes. So, hey there, Lori. I just saw. So the art style we're talking about today, Impressionism. So when I think of an Impressionist painter and the time period and when that was, the first artist that comes to mind, you'll probably recognize this painting. It's a postcard that I have, is Van Gogh, right? This is probably the artist that I think about, at least in that time period when I think about impression. He gave the impression of the sky and the stars, right? I also think about Monet, and I think that somebody put Monet up there. So those are probably the two artists that I think of when I think about Impressionist painting. As I started researching this a little bit, I'm going to talk to you about Van Gogh is not actually an Impressionist painter. He came after the Impressionist painter, so he is a post-Impressionist painter. So there you go. If you didn't know that, which I didn't until I started doing a little bit of research, that's your lesson for today, that you learn that Van Gogh's not an Impressionist painter. Monet is. Monet was one of the original four. There were four people who kind of started this movement of Impressionist painting. So I'm going to show you, since I don't have the carbon paper, I'm going to try something else that I will show you here to transfer, because I'm just going to trace. I'm just going to trace this on here. So I need to get one of these, a stylus. So I'm going to show you what I'm going to do here. And I will tell you a little bit more about the Impressionists. So my phone is top heavy today. Maybe it'll stay here. I'm going to take a Stabilo pencil. This is a Stabilo woody pencil, so it has like a nice thick lead. Tell me if you have these. And what I'm going to do is color on the back. And I really only need to color kind of down to there. I have some other little smaller ones, although this works better for a larger cover, you know, that you want to cover a larger area. But I can't find the little smaller ones. I probably used them, so I can't find them. Or they're just like really tiny little nubs, right? A Stabilo woody pencil, I think, is a little cleaner than like a charcoal or a graphite pencil for doing this type of tracing. And we'll see. I guess I need to go over here a little bit. And the only reason that I am kind of doing this, impressionistic painters, that's what I meant to say. I'm going to put it, I've been doing these all over on the right hand side, so that's where I'm going to put this one too. They probably wouldn't have outlines like I'm going to be doing here, but just for the sake of having guidelines of like where to put paint strokes, this is what I'm kind of doing. So at the time, which this would have been like late 1800s, most artists were painting in a studio, and they were painting landscapes and landscapes, but they were doing it from a studio. So they were not painting from what they saw in real life. Does that make sense? I think I got the nose, the eye here. And I'm going to do like this line kind of in here. So I'm kind of doing lines where I know that there's differences in color. And I'm going to get this kind of line in there. It's like I have to concentrate on drawing this in here. Okay. So because I drew this on, or colored this on the back with the Stabilo, that was what I essentially used for carbon paper. So if you don't have carbon paper, but you have your Stabilo Woody with you, like if you're traveling, that is a good way to be able to do that and transfer something. Even though Van Gogh is more of a post-impressionist painter, I am going to use a little bit of this idea in the background of this little swirl that he has going on here. So I'm actually going to just draw it with my Stabilo Woody here. And I have kind of that shape in the background there for that little swirl back there. So let me tell you about the Impressionists. Well, I did not bring over a, oh, here we go. Anything to put my paint on either. Impressionists, really, they rebelled. They rebelled against what was going on at the time with painters. I have some blues and, oh, that one's not coming out. And colors for the back here. I didn't bring over, oh, we'll get some white too. At the time, all the colors were kind of, or all the paintings were kind of dark. There were these landscapes that were very realistic, like that was the thing that you were trying to do. But Monet came along and he painted outside. He had, and I did not take French, so I do not know how to say this, but he had a beautiful garden in Giverny. Giverny, I don't know. It's French. And I don't know exactly how to say it. Giverny? I don't know. It looks like Giverny in English. I don't know. But he had this beautiful garden and he painted outside in plain air, if you've ever heard that terminology. And he painted what he saw. That yellow is all dried up. Use some of my other paint over here. And he did it at different times of day. So what he was trying to capture was the light. And that is really what Impressionists were trying to do. They wanted to capture the light and the color of things, not necessarily paint it realistic. Isn't that kind of freeing to think about, that you don't have to paint things realistic? They don't have to be like these artists that we now know as the Impressionist artists. They didn't do what everybody else was doing. So I have some blues, some yellows, and I put some white on there. And I'm going to take a really small little brush here. And just to make sure that I kind of have all of this background painted in, I am going to take and see how in the Starry Night it was this darker kind of intense blue. I think that that's what I'm going to kind of put in the background here. So I have this basis of this color. So Impressionists were really trying to do something different than what everybody else was doing at the time. And the way that they got their name, there was a painting that Monet had done, and it was in the late 1800s. I think it was 1872. And he called it actually Impression Sunrise. And it was a painting of you know, what his gardens, what he was looking at sunrise. And a critic actually said, well, that's just the impression of the sun. You know, because it was different than what everybody else was doing at the time, trying to paint a realistic view of what it was that they saw of a landscape. And it kind of stuck, and the artist who started painting in this style, trying to capture the light, they were okay with it, and that was how the term of Impressionists started. And so just like I'm kind of painting in the background here, if I was, you know, painting this in like a real life kind of setting, I'm not trying to get all the perfect, you know, colors, and I just kind of want this dark in the background. I'm going to let that dry a little bit. I'm going to do the same with the lion, I think, here too. And I'm going to start with kind of like this darker brown, just to give me like a base underneath of the colors. So there were 4 different painters that kind of started this Impressionist movement, I guess, if you will. And I'm just adding some water to this just so I can still see the lines. And I'll do a little bit lighter kind of over in here. Now, the Stabilo Woody that I have, it will move. It is activated by water, and I don't really care about it, but I just want you to be aware that it does activate with water. So I kind of have all of it painted in, and that's really just like what I was looking for, just so I have like a basis. And if you know, think about how Starry Night was done, this darker kind of underneath is what makes all of the white, all of these lighter ones, like pop forward. I can see some comments that you guys are making, but I can't see them at the angle that I'm at right now. So I will come back to those, and I will look at those. So I'm going to start, oh, that was a little bit of paint there I'm going to start with the sky and just show you a little bit of that, and I'll do a little bit of the lion here too. So these 4 painters were the ones who kind of started, and that was like in the late 1800s. Van Gogh wasn't born until like the mid 1853, I think it was 1852, and he really kind of came around those people like at the end of when they were doing the post-impressionistic painting. Post-impressionism, that's what I wanted to say. I'm gonna get my paintbrush wet. So I have this you know, starting curve here, and if you look at this, you know, I always kind of think of Starry Night as maybe like storming, and that's why there's this like little swirl in the sky, and then, you know, these little stars, you know, that are kind of in there, and that swirl that's kind of going on. I usually, whenever I try to do like a Starry Night style, I try to go in the same direction as these paint strokes, or as this like swirl. So I have like I have a round brush, that's what I want to say, and I want to try to get it to like a point, and I just kind of do like these brush strokes kind of going in the direction, like these long brush strokes. I actually make them a little bit longer, but I'm leaving some of the sky, this blue, in the background. And I can kind of go over where I, you know, drew that line there, And I'm kind of going on both sides. And I really don't even pick up that much paint. This is a kind of a thicker white paint. You know, so some of the brush strokes are a heavier white, some of them are kind of a lighter. If I get a little bit of water. And I could add some of the blue to this so that I get like different variations. But really, the way that I think about Impressionism is what you would see if you like squint your eyes, right? So if you would squint your eyes, you're not going to see all of the details like the realistic painters were trying to do. You're just going to see the impression of where the lights are, where the colors are. I'm going to come into a little bit of this lighter blue here. So I have like this lighter, what's this one called? Pale blue. It's called pale blue. And I'll start kind of adding some of those strokes around in there too. So it's really just kind of building up all of these strokes of these blues and whites, and you know, Van Gogh put some of the yellow. So even though this is impressionist for the art style that I'm doing today, I'm kind of incorporating the idea. I'll do a little bit more in the line here, but I always thought of Van Gogh as an impressionist artist. And as much as possible, I'm just kind of following that little spiral kind of that I made. I'm going to go back into the white a little bit. But now I'm starting to, you know, kind of fill in like around that. I feel like I even need a smaller little detail brush. This is such a small little space to work on. And once I would get like the lighter part that I want in here, then I can kind of go back into the color that I did on the sky, or I may even do a darker color, and I can start doing some of the lines. You know, some of the lines in these darker kind of areas. I feel like I want to do a couple little stars, and I don't want to lose those though. So I'm going to do my, what do you call it, stylus that I used. And I think I'm going to do a little dot, and I'm going to do 3 of them for the stars. So if you ever kind of want to paint in an impressionistic style, just like squint your eyes. Squint your eyes and see like where this lighter color is, where this, you know, is lighter. It's lighter definitely around his face here. And it really, you can tell if like the light is coming from this direction, and behind his ears really dark, right? Because it's not catching any of the light. And it's more about kind of if you squint your eyes at it. So I'm going to let this dry for a little bit, and I'm going to show you what else is going on in October. October is one of my favorite months for a couple of different reasons. And I'll flip it up here so then I can see your comments a little bit too. Lori says her favorite. Hey there, Gail. Gail, I made mine. So I took a piece of acetate that I got between the canvases. When I buy a package of canvases, it comes with this piece of acetate in there. And I actually used a Sharpie, and I measured, and I just made my own grid. So that's how I did that. I don't know that I've ever seen one I just have always made my own grid, right? So I just take the acetate, I measure both sides, I measure top and bottom, and then I just connect those. And I usually do like a 1-inch grid. And that's just the way that I've always done those. October is my favorite month for a couple of different reasons. One is my birthday month. So I always get excited about celebrating and just doing fun things, and that it falls during the month of October when it is pumpkin everything season is always fun for me, and I go like searching out for like pumpkin things. So because I always think of pumpkins during October, in my Art Journaling 101 group, which is where really anything that I do on my page here, any art that you might create, you're welcome to share over in that Art Journaling 101 group. But every month, on the first of the month, I always put prompts in there as a jumpstart, as a way to give you ideas to create. And during October is pumpkins. And for the past 4 years, I have been doing a pumpkin art journal page every day. So, a cutting mat with a grid. Oh, that's a good idea, Terry. I have used the cutting mat, and to do like the transfer of the grid, you could probably use that and be able to, yeah, so. Oh, you were just trying the lazy way. So, oh, thank you, Sue. I posted inside of my art journaling group the prompts for all of the pumpkins, and this is what I've been using for the past 4 years. And there are 31 different ways to create a pumpkin. And I have a journal from each one of those past 4 years. So I was actually going to show you, I think that was right in here, the Starry Night one that I did for one of the days. And I did it on black, so it really stood out against the black. And that, if I can find it here, I didn't mark where it was. Let's see. And it really made it stand out for the background in the same way that I was painting the blue on here. Oh my gosh. Oh, here's one with Van Gogh on there though. And like some of the stickers down there. So it's kind of a collage. Oh, here we go. This is the one that I did with the Starry Night sky in there, and the moon and the stars and everything in there, and then just had like this jack-o'-lantern in there. So be looking for a flip through of all 4 of these journals. So this is my one from 2023. Usually do a cover. This was an all black one, and I have 31 pumpkins in there. This one was my book for 2022, and every year I just kind of do like different pumpkins, and every day it, you know, gives me different ideas. I went all the way back to 2021, and I did a book that month, or that year. And I usually will put the prompts in the book there, and I didn't do the back side. I just did, you know, the front. I just posted a little reel of me doing this one the other day. And in the Art Journaling 101 group, what I've been trying to do every day is post the 4 pictures from that day for inspiration of what you could create for your pumpkin that day. I think that it's a great way to do some art for the day. Just take a pumpkin and do it in a certain way. You can take any technique. You could do like the impressionistic technique that I'm showing today and do a pumpkin. You could collage. You could, I think these are some stamping and things that I did on here. And you could have writing. You could have no writing. You could these I cut out and kind of like folded and did, you know, like almost like a paper doll kind of idea. And what I have used these for is to try out some different techniques and to try out different things inside my journal that maybe then I would use in different ways. Some of these, I guess I did do the top part to go with the other one. And some of them are turned different directions. You know, some of them I need to turn like the other direction. That was kind of fun with all just the blues. But last year, what I decided to do, and I will do a flip through of this one, isn't this like a fun cover? I used my packing tape. Last year, what I decided to do is almost use it as an idea. I documented how I did the pages. So for this one that I put in here, on the back side, I had to flip it over. I wrote out in here what I did, what colors I used, what paints I used. You know, one like this, some of them I wrote on the side. Some of them I have, like this one here, I glued pieces to the background. I did little sketches, I wrote out, and I explained how I did the pages and what it was that I used, where I got the inspiration. And this was probably my favorite one because I really documented what it was that I did. And it really became a way for me to think through and, you know, remember how I did things. So now I can go back to each one of these pages and I can know how I did them. I actually kind of did like step-by-step directions in there. So this year, it is October 6th today, and I have not started my October journal. I have not started my pumpkins yet. However, I do have my journal. And I wanted to show you this because, oh, I didn't remember I had that in there. Because it's something that I'm going to try different this year. I have not decided if I'm going to, you know, add the details of how I did the pages. And you'll see why maybe when you see the journal. Do you get very many Amazon packages? I'm just curious. Is it just us? I feel like we get a lot of Amazon packages. And for some reason, several months ago, I had a lot of the packing material inside of an Amazon box. Do you know what I mean? All that like brown packing material. And it, I think, oh no, that's something different. It was all like crumpled up and everything. And I realized it was like one big long piece of paper that was like craft paper. And for whatever reason, I saved it. And I started saving all the Amazon packing of that brown paper, not knowing what I was going to do with it. And I would flatten it all kind of out and kind of fold it. And last week sometime, I got this idea that I wanted to create a journal for October out of that brown paper. And what I did is I cut pieces that were this long. I think this is like a 6 by 6 square, so it's probably 6 by 12. And I cut out pieces of paper that were about 6 by 12 inches. And I cut out 31 of them. And what I did is I laid them out and I glued them all together. So this piece right here is 2 pieces of the paper together. And what I'm going to do is make a thicker front cover and a thicker back cover, so it's a little bit more substantial. But all of these are folded together there. I just used a glue stick and I glued them all together. So my plan is I'm going to have a front cover And on the inside of the front cover, I'm going to have the list of the prompts, of all the October prompts on there. And then I'm going to start with day 1 and, day 2. And the nice thing about this is it lays out flat because that is one sheet of paper. So if there's ever a time where I wanted to go across 2 pieces of paper, I would be able to do that. If I wanted, and this is why I'm not sure if I'm going to do the directions like I did last year and kind of write that all out. If I thought about it, I could have had like a pocket right there, and then I could have added in there and just added it inside there, but I didn't think about that. But I could have had like a pocket. But this is the book that I'm planning on using for the pumpkins, and it's honestly just been kind of like a weird October, and I had intentions of starting, I think I finished that journal last Tuesday, which would have been the 30th, and had intentions of starting on October 1st and doing the pumpkins and just kind of one thing after another, and here it is October 6th and I haven't done that. I do still plan on doing a pumpkin for every day of the month, so I'll have 31 ideas. They might just not necessarily be on the actual day, right? So I have 31 ideas for the prompts, but I'll be doing, just kind of spreading them out. So I wanted to encourage you to try doing some art every day. Whether it's a pumpkin and you do that in Art Journaling 101, I would love to see you share. I know I have a couple of people who are starting and they're starting to share every day. I would love to see those. It encourages everybody else in the group to create. But I feel like if there's something that you're doing every day, and a journal page does not really have to take you that long. If you have 15 or 20 minutes, you can sit down and do a journal page, really. They're small and, and it really does help to do a little bit each day, to do a little bit of creating, exploring, trying things. It's a journal, and it doesn't have to be perfect, and it doesn't have to be completed, and it doesn't have to be anything even that you would ever do again. It's you trying things and exploring and just experimenting with things that aren't going to be like hung up on your wall. A journal for me has really been someplace where I feel much freer to try things than I would a canvas, than I would something that I feel like is visible for everyone to see. When it's inside the book, I feel like I can close it and other people don't have to see it. And the month of October during the pumpkins has been the way that I kind of get back into that groove of doing something every day. So I'm going to start that back up today. And during November is going to be leaves. And then during December, if you have been around for a couple of years, you know that I do the Christmas card challenge. And I'll be doing that again this year. So really during the month of October, November, December, for the past 4 years, I've done a journal page every day along with the people in my Art Journaling 101. And I would just encourage you, if you are feeling like you haven't been very creative, if you're feeling like you haven't made time for your art because you feel like you need to have an hour and a half to do a painting, if you have felt like you just really aren't that inspired, I would encourage you to try creating a pumpkin every day. During November, try creating a leaf every day. And then during December, doing the Christmas card challenge. If you're not in Art Journaling 101, just put AJ 101, whether you're watching this on Facebook, you're watching it on YouTube, and I will make sure that you have the link to get into that group and to be able to start sharing over there what it is that you're doing, because it's not a fine art group. It's not a group where you have to be a fine artist to be able to post in there. it's all about sharing and like exploring different things. And really, art journaling is that. It's expressing yourself and exploring different ideas and just experimenting with things, not about whether you have this beautiful finished page. And I just wanted to give you that encouragement today. I am going to continue to let this lion dry because these are still wet right here. And I will be posting probably a flip through of all of this as I get this finished too. But thank you. Thank you for showing up to watch about the word of the week. I have not decided on the Monday videos for Art in the AM if I will continue to do another book to finish out the year with these last 12 weeks or so, or if I will, do a pumpkin and a leaf and, the Christmas card on those days. So let me know what you'd like to see. Would you rather me keep working in a journal and just kind of exploring a lot of different things? Or would you rather see, in real time, the pumpkins that I'm doing for that day? So next week would be the 13th, so I would do number 13, which would be the striped pumpkin, it looks like. So tell me which one you'd rather see. Would you rather see like in real time or the word of the week that I've been doing in the journal and I would just start a new journal? I would love to know. Anyway, I will finish, and hopefully you learned a little bit about Impressionism today and some Impressionist artists, and maybe even learned that Van Gogh was actually a post-Impressionist artist. And I will be back again next Monday with no internet problems, no Wi-Fi problems. And it looks like I see some of you saying the pumpkin and the leaf, and yeah, like do in real time. So I like that idea because that holds me accountable to getting those done too. So anyway, I will be back next Monday at 10:30 Eastern. And if you would like to watch all of these videos on YouTube, I have started a playlist over there of all of my Art in the AM videos going back to February. So you can watch them all in a playlist over there. So anyway, thanks for showing up, and I will see you next week.